Thanks for joining me today. It's Adriana here, and today I'm doing a product feature on some products from Couture Creations Alcohol Ink Stays in Place ink pads, as well as the alcohol inks, and featuring a die from the Blooming Friendship collection, which is out now. So I'm just playing with the alcohol inks and creating a background on my Yupo paper. I have a 5x7 inch Yupo paper, and I've got these colors that I've listed here down below on the screen. And remembering, with any of the pearlized or metallic alloyed or even the fluoros, please give your alcohol inks a bit of a shake. Make sure that bead inside is breaking up the pigments that are down below in the bottle. So I'm using the blending solution and these colors. I'm using my air blower to move around the alcohol inks around my Yupo page. Remembering that blending solution will move the alcohol ink around and also dilute the color, and that's what I wanted to do, a very faint color, just to get a bit of interest in the background of my Yupo paper. Now I've grabbed a few lids of some of my mixed media products. These can be different sizes. I'm sure you might have some in your stash. You can use also medicine little bottles lids, but I just wanted to create some sort of like little circles with some of the ink around my page. If the page was a bit more dry, it'd probably come out a bit more definite color, so just make sure that you add a little bit of blending solution to your alcohol ink when you have it on your page. Also, I'm just going to use my brush. Now, by accident, there was a little bit of color left on my brush of this green, and I didn't mind it. I was going to clean it up, but then when I added the blending solution and just cleaned my brush a little bit of the green came off on my brush. I don't mind it, so I'm going to keep it. It looks quite nice. So now I'm going to be doing some stamping with the Stayz In Place bronze alcohol ink pad. Now I've used this before and I felt that it was just a little bit dry, but if you did want to test it, I always test it on a scrap piece of cardstock. If it doesn't stamp, then maybe you need to add some more ink, but this one's quite good and I'm ready to use it on my page, remembering that the Stayz In Place ink pad inks, being stamped on non-porous surface like Yupo paper, will take a little bit of time to dry, so be careful not to smudge while you're stamping around. So once I've stamped that around, I also had another piece of Yupo paper. I stamped some bronze leaves around those ones as well, and this one had a background of Slate Pewter alcohol ink and also some stamping with the antique gold Stayz In Place ink pad. So these two backgrounds will be fabulous backgrounds for any project. I'm going to create two cards with this using a couple of things from the My Friendship collection. Now here I have a little mini stamp. It's got some music on it. It's from the Sweeping Plains collection. I'm just using the Stayz In Place mini black ink pad. This one here is ready to go. You don't need to re-ink this. It's ready to go for all your creating. And I'm just using the stamp block. Now I'm going to cut out this gorgeous little petal die. It's from the Blooming Friendship collection, and I'm going to use two colors from our cardstock, the Chameleon and also Endless Dusk, and I'm going to create and cut out some of these beautiful petals, and these will be like a stained glass effect. So I'm going to actually, because these dies are open and you can see right through, I'm going to glue these on my page, and then inside of these petals I'm actually going to use alcohol ink to color in the actual flower petals. So it'll be like a little lead light sort of stained glass effect, but with the alcohol inks you will notice that any color that's underneath will actually move, and this is what I wanted to show you. Using alcohol inks, once it's dried, it will always move, whether you use a brush or whether you use blending solution. it'll always move on non-porous surfaces like Yupo paper. So here you can see I'm using the metallic cinnamon alloy alcohol ink around with my brush, and depending on how deep the color you want, you might have to give it a couple of coats. So I'm just coloring all the petals in with this alcohol ink. I am diluting the alcohol ink with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, which I've decanted in my little applicator tool. I find this is quite great to put your alcohol solution, blending solution, or your isopropyl alcohol in your applicator bottle. I'm adding now the glitter iridescent white metallic alcohol ink, just to give it a bit of glitter on the petals, and also just to highlight some of the petals in the areas of the flowers. So that's my one with the reddish coloured flowers. Now I'm going to do exactly the same now with the ice blue metallic alloy alcohol ink, diluting it again with isopropyl alcohol and just using my brush painting in the petals of the flowers. Pretty easy to do. Once I've finished painting the flowers, I'm going to let it completely dry. I just flicked on a little bit of the blue on the other card, and now I'm going to stamp a sentiment. I'm using the translucent Yupo paper, but first of all I just wanted to show you this stamp set from the Blooming Friendship collection. It's a wonderful stamp set. It's got some great little sentiments, and I'm using Life is Better with Friends, which I think is a beautiful sentiment. So I'm going to show you now that the Stayz In Place ink pads, you can use it on non-porous surfaces as well as porous surfaces like normal cardstock. So it is ready to go. All I have to do now is just cut that little sentiment out, and I'm going to put it on my blue card here with a little bit of backing, and it's easy to do. But also now I'm going to show you how you can stamp on translucent Yupo paper. It's like a vellum but a little bit more thicker, and I'm going to show you is exactly the same, but the drying time may take a little bit longer than if it was on normal cardstock or paper, because translucent Yupo paper is non-porous and it takes a little bit longer to dry, but the effect is quite nice that when you place it on your card you can still see a little bit of design coming through. Like I said, it's like vellum, a little bit more thicker. So this is the card that I created with the sentiment Life is Better with Friends, and I matted that with some blue cardstock. And now I'm going to show you how I'm going to apply the ink on the piece of translucent Yupo paper, and show you also how I create a fold and then apply some glue or sticky tape on the back. Double-sided tape is perfect too, to make sure that it doesn't move onto your card, because you want to not to glue underneath it, because it'll actually show. So you want to glue underneath the flaps underneath the card that's not showing. So that's my sentiment that I've stamped with the little mini black matte jet black Stayz In Place ink pad, remembering to clean your ink pad after every use. And once that's dry, I'm going to be placing this little sentiment that's on the translucent Yupo paper, folding it backwards, and just with a bone folder just scoring it to help with the fold, because it is a little bit more thicker than vellum and even paper. It's a really thick sort of Yupo paper. So once I've secured that at the back of the tabs with the cardstock, I've created my cards, and here are my finished cards mounted on some cardstock that coordinate beautifully with the colours that I've used in the alcohol inks and also with the Stayz In Place ink pads. I also created another card which I'll show you now, but I just wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to create with the alcohol inks from Couture Creations, and also how wonderful the Stayz In Place alcohol ink pads are great for creating on your cards and other projects. This is the other card I created that I use a different sentiment from one of the sentiments collection, wishing you a special day, and again done again on translucent Yupo paper. Thanks for joining me today. I hope I've inspired you to use alcohol inks and also Stayz In Place alcohol ink pads on all your projects. If you have any questions or if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I also have some other videos. Please make sure you subscribe and click on the link for another tip and techniques using alcohol inks from Couture Creation and also Stayz In Place ink pads. Thanks for watching. Happy crafting.